So this is basically the demo for the LOE LOS that's scrubbed from the actual company. But this is what they started with. So this is their original data. This one was out of Wolfpack. And so that's a summary. They had their information by pumper route. So as you can see, just a monster to try to actually look at. What they wanted to do was actually review with the pumpers, have a field review, and see where they could improve. So if you combine the data, it's 27,000 rows. And you could just imagine trying to go to a field review and scroll through this and then scroll over on sort of a 12 or 18 month period and show the pumpers where there's anomalies or what's going on. So it's not just the pumpers. I think nobody really wants to try to look through this and dig out issues or try to make, derive conclusions about what's really going on. So what we did is went to a spot fire. And what you can see here are all the pumper routes. They've got 7 of them. To start with, they wanted to be able to sit down and show the 7 pumpers how they're doing compared to everyone else. So for instance, route number 4, very high, the highest on revenue, pretty high on net profit, but similar to route 3, quite a bit of LOE. It's one of the highest, and you really see a large spike, relatively large spike in artificial lift, which is kind of driving down the profit compared to the revenue. They're doing well on chemical cost, up a little higher on maintenance and repair, doing good on SWD, and not too high on the workover cost. But you can click through sort of any route. Route 7, obviously kind of an issue, quite a bit of revenue, pretty low net profit. And if you're looking through it, you can see that the workover cost is what really got them. So they wanted to start there and then be able to go through, kind of certain categories and look at what they could do to improve or where the issues are. This one is net profit. So for instance, we could go to that route number 7, and you can see, I think this is it's the last year. You can see that they had a big negative in April 18, and then we're kind of doing better. So one thing you could do is click on April and then go over here, and this would be a real well name, but scrubbed for confidentiality. But you can see that well 204 was really kind of driving this negative in April, and you could look at, in that case, specific wells and then deep dive into what's going on. This one was total LOE, and for this, we kind of have down here in the bottom left which categories are in it. And so they wanted to show sort of a field LOE, things that the pumpers could actually try to control and take out some of these other things that were more corporate level to really hone in on what they can do with their route to improve. So you can move the slider back out to show all their wells here. And again, we're on route number 7, their LOE kind of decreasing. No big spikes, but you can see which wells are really contributing the highest. If you go to artificial lift, this one for them, no real giant spikes. One of those other routes did have issues, but you could see on a higher month which wells were a problem or contributing the most. And then this right now shows, it's a little unformatted, but shows what the contributors are. And so with all of their costs, we really saw that having a rental compressor and rental pumping unit were driving it. You can click on the very highest well, and it was really only a compressor, not a pumping unit. And so here you could say, where are the problem wells and what needs to be done to improve that. Chemical cost, we also looked at, again, route 7. So they kind of, some higher costs, a low month, higher cost later, but you could look at a highest month, look at all the wells. It's really only a few of them contributing, and then you could hone in on, which wells are needing the chemical, what's kind of gone on. You can also see all the months with all the wells and click on a well and see how its cost have run. So they had some treatments several months, large treatment in August. That one doesn't look too good because they're spending quite a bit every month. So you can kind of see, how often are they having to treat? Are there any big spikes? This one's pretty constant, goes down a lot, and then a few treatments. Maintenance, repair, and facility. This one, they wanted several different, here you can put any cost in the group that you want to. So your accounting software and outputs may have one set of information categorized in one way with maintenance, facility, and here you can aggregate the ones that you actually want to show for sort of this new user-defined field maintenance repair. Again, they were looking at things that the pumper could try to control. So you could click on the highest, most expensive well, and there were issues in April of 18 and again in November. And so you can kind of see what the distribution is, you know, which wells are costing the most. If there's a big spike, you can look at what it was. You can also look at a high month and see which wells are contributing. And for a route review, you could go here in the wells and click down on every single well if you're going to go well by well for people. SWD, again, the same kind of thing. Workover, pretty interesting. That was Route 7's big problem overall. And so if you click on it, you can see the biggest cost here for them was in April of 18. And well 204 had some pretty big issues there. So you can look at that well and see, you know, they've had to spend some more money later, but it was really concentrated in 18. And so for a small field like this, if you take that month out, they actually probably won't look as bad on the overall net profit situation. But here you could look through the wells and see, okay, you did a workover on it. One thing you can see here that's important, like this 206, is if you're having to spend money on workovers on a regular basis, that's not good. So here when you had to do cost in April of 18 and then by October, you know, kind of six-ish months later, you're doing it again. Obviously not a good thing. That one, you know, once in the period, not too bad. But some of these where you're having to regularly go in and spend workover capital, not a good thing. So that allows you to quickly see where those problems are. One other thing that this did that was interesting is we had seen a huge spike on one of the routes, and we ended up looking, you can quickly hone in and see what's going on. So when we had the spike, we kind of did it allowed us to dig in and see what was going on. And what you see, if we go back to all the routes, there's a big spike in the cost that was buried in November, and that's pretty obviously ad val once you get into it. But there was also a big cost in August, and it was really only one well. And we looked at that, and basically what was happening was all of the operator insurance was getting charged to one well in 1 month. So what this allows you to do is sort of separate the corporate costs from the well level cost, really hone in on who's accountable for what. Sort of no more of this back and forth between, they had a problem here with the field hands saying, oh, it's accounting, it's the accounting software, and the accounting saying, no, it's the pumpers, it's the field guys. And so you can really hone in on where the issue is, what the outliers are, management by exception, where's the problem, and then see, is it, you know, in this case, there was an accounting issue with a big charge, all charged on one well in 1 month that was insurance. No real problem with the pumper, no big issue there, but you can really hone in and see exactly what the issues are. And like I showed in the artificial lift, see very quickly what's contributing and what you can do about it. So it worked great for the route review and this back kind of the comparison page. But the other thing it can really do is say you're a PE shop or you're, you know, sponsoring a team or you're the debt service. You could set this up where you can see what's going on, and very quickly for the management team or for you, it can sit on the web deployment. As you've seen, pretty simple. I think anyone could learn to use it pretty quickly. And so from anywhere you're at, instead of going through having someone do an accounting dump and then format it and pull out outliers and generate, you know, a report or an email or a memo, you could be sitting at your house drinking coffee, on a plane, at the office, and, you know, really just click through a few things and see exactly how any asset or team is doing. So that is the basics of that. You know, it takes a pretty nasty 27,000 row spreadsheet, all kinds of funky data dumps out of whatever software with weird positive, negatives, counting issues, and puts it into a dashboard that auto loads each time with the data, puts it in the categories that you've defined as you want to, and lets you really see kind of exactly what's going on very quickly.